Hello and welcome back to Chow with Lau. It's been a while since I've put out a video, but we're ready and raring to go, full of energy and full of some amazing new recipes for you to try. And today we are going to make steamed ribs with black bean sauce. So for this recipe, you will need some pork ribs. I have 700 grams of ribs here. This recipe will work for between 700 grams and a kilogram of ribs. Nothing special about these ribs. You can get it from your local supermarket. If you can get it from your butcher, even better, because they can chop it into smaller segments for you. I'll show you how to do that anyway in a little bit. But with ribs, I always like to see some fat on them because that gives you a nice marbling, makes them tender, makes them tasty. I know some people have a problem with fat, but trust me, it really improves the flavour and the texture of this dish. If of course that isn't for you, then get leaner ribs. That's totally down to you. Okay, so we will also need 1 tablespoon of corn flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 tablespoons of black bean. Now, don't get this confused with the tins of black beans. This is fermented soybean. You will get it from your local Chinese, Asian supermarket. It is relatively inexpensive. Just look out for it. Every Chinese or Asian supermarket has got it. In some of the more high-end supermarkets, you might be able to find it. But please make sure you get these and don't get confused with the beans. Okay, so we'll also need a tablespoon of water, a teaspoon of sesame oil. We'll be using a splash of light soy sauce, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, about a tablespoon of just normal cooking oil. Vegetable oil will be fine. To give it a little bit of kick, we are going to use a little bit of chili, some garlic to give it that extra flavour, about a thumb-sized piece of ginger. I'll show you what that means in a little while. And to garnish, a little bit of spring onion. Okay, so let's get cooking. Right people, the next thing to do is to chop your ribs into bite-sized pieces. We don't want them too big because it'll take too long to cook. And the idea of this, when you're having it as a dim sum meal, for example, is you can pick each individual bit up with a pair of chopsticks. Anything bigger than that, you're going to struggle. So I'll try to demonstrate the size and how to do it. Now, if you go to a butcher's, of course, you can ask them to do this for you, and that would be the safer thing to do because they are quite difficult to cut. You can't use just a normal kitchen knife. Well, you can, but it's going to be more difficult. You need at least a meat cleaver, okay? And please, if you're going to do this yourself, be very, very careful. I don't want anybody missing any fingers or thumbs. Okay, so we take a hefty whack. So we want our chunks to be about that size. As you can imagine, a pair of chopsticks could pick this up relatively easy. Okay, depending on your skill level, of course, but it's all good practice. Okay, so we're going to chop the rest of the ribs that kind of size. Okay, and there you go. And I must say, after a hard day's work, this is very good stress relief. Right, my little chefs, the next step is to chop up the aromatics. What we have here are 3 cloves of garlic, which we're going to take the skin off. Okay, let's just put that to one side, and we're going to finally chop these. And when I say finely chop these, I mean not chunks like that. What we can do, we'll roughly chop them initially, and then we can go over and over and over again. And we need it to be quite fine, because the whole point is we need it to release its flavours into the marinade and therefore into the sauce. And garlic is a very, very, very important component of the flavours. So keep going until everything is quite finely chopped. And you can see the juice coming out from it, and that's kind of at the point you need to be. You can use garlic paste if you want, but I wouldn't use garlic powder or garlic granules because the flavour's not the same, and you've got to use something that doesn't have that already cooked flavour, if you know what I mean, that you can get from the garlic powders, because the whole essence of this dish is it's fresh, the freshness that comes through from the ingredients. So it's always better to use fresh garlic, and to be fair, it's very easy to get. Okay, we're also going to add some fresh chilies. This is optional. If you don't like spicy food, that's fine. I do. What we're going to do is take the seeds out. And we're going to finely chop these. And this will give the sauce a little bit of a kick. Of course, there's a range of different heats you can get depending on which chili you buy. This is kind of a medium chili. Generally, the smaller they are, the hotter they are. So it's up to you, and you don't have to put a whole chili in if you don't want to. If you just want a little bit of a kick, you might want to use just half the chili. That's absolutely fine. Or like I said, if you don't like it, don't put it in at all. Right, so next we're going to put in a kind of I don't know, a thumb-sized piece of ginger. If you imagine, you have to scale it up because my thumb's quite sort of skinny. It's about the same kind of volume. It's not an exact science, so don't feel pressurized in trying to get exactly a thumb-sized piece of ginger. And what we're going to do is take the skin off it. And we're going to really finely chop this. We're not going to quite mince it like we did with the garlic, because I think it's one of those things where perhaps if you get it in your mouth, you may not want to actually eat it as such, because we just want it to give the flavour. So as fine as we dare. And finally, we have the spring onions. This is for garnish, so we're going to put this right at the end just to give the dish a little bit of crispness and a bit of freshness. Probably from about there to there. So we cut it on the diagonal. We don't need a lot of it. It is just a garnish, but it'll just give a little bit of an extra je ne sais quoi to the dish. Okay, that is fine. Excellent. I like the name the Irish give it, scallions. I love the word scallions. It just has a nice ring to it. Spring onions, just a bit, bleh. But scallions, that's nice. Right, on to the marinade. On to the next step, the all-important marinade. Okay, so what we're going to use is about a tablespoon of oil. We don't use a lot of oil because the ribs have their fat, which will render into quite a lot of oil all on its own. Okay, to that we're going to add the tablespoon of water. Just plain water is fine. A good twist of black pepper. Good twist of salt. We're going to add our corn flour. A tablespoon of corn flour goes in. Tablespoon of sugar. Sugar, you might find an odd ingredient, but it just gives it, again, a little bit of sweetness this dish really, really needs. I would have left it out, except for my mum told me it was essential for the recipe. Okay, the sesame oil, which gives another layer of flavour. You only need a little bit, that's about a teaspoon. You can always smell it, it always has quite a pungent, when it's only a tiny bit, it smells so powerful. You know you don't need a lot. I see a lot of people using like tablespoons of it in recipes. It's far too much normally. Okay. The fermented soybeans or black beans, don't forget, not tinned beans, not black-eyed beans, none of that. I keep getting people thinking that it is, and it definitely isn't. These are fermented soybeans, and they have quite a distinctive look. They are dry when you get them, and they have a very unique aroma and taste. Yeah, if that doesn't get your taste buds going, nothing will. We'll just put that in. And we're going to add our aromatics, the chili, the garlic and the ginger. And finally, a splash of light soy sauce. So about, I don't know, a teaspoon or so, not too much. And that should give us a saltiness. And to paraphrase a famous chef, mix it, mix it, mix it. Make sure all the ingredients are coating the ribs. It's really important to distribute everything as evenly as possible. That looks almost good enough to eat right now, but I don't recommend it. Oh, and before I forget, the reason we have corn flour in this recipe is for two reasons. Number one, it thickens the sauce because we don't want a watery sauce. There'll be juices coming out the ribs, and obviously with the liquids we've already put in. And when that goes in the steamer, we need it to thicken up a little bit, and the corn flour will do that for us. But even more important than that, corn flour has the effect of tenderizing meat. So we're going to leave this marinade for at least half an hour. A few hours would be great. Overnight would be amazing if you can do that, but try to leave it as long as you can. And as this process of marinating happens, it tenderizes the pork, so when it comes out the steamer, it absolutely will melt in your mouth. And the corn flour is really important for doing that. Okay, so the next step is to pop the ribs and as much of the marinade and all the other ingredients into a dish. Try to spread it out as evenly as you can. Okay, so you can use a steamer. This is a pasta cooker, which works just as well. Or one of the smaller kind of steamers you can get, or you can use a wok with a trivet or a steaming rack. and that will work just as well. Just ensure that the water doesn't boil dry, because that can get quite dangerous. Okay, so we're going to pop it in carefully. It says, whoop. I'm going to cover it, and we're just going to let it steam away for about 35 to 40 minutes. Okay, after your allotted time, test the pork to see that it's cooked properly. The cooking time will largely depend on how much you've got in there, and also how thick the meat is on the bone and how big the chunks are, because obviously the larger the chunks, the thicker the meat, the longer it takes to cook. So 35 to 40 minutes is a good guideline. Right everybody, it is the moment of truth. The ribs have been in here for about 40 minutes, so we're going to switch off the heat and we're going to get it out of the steamer. Now we have to be really careful, because this is absolutely piping hot. I'm going to use a couple of tea towels to get it out. It's always a tricky bit. Okay, the smell is amazing. Ooh. It's tricky. Got it. There you go. As you can see, a lot of liquid has come out of the ribs, but that's quite normal and that's expected. Right, I can't wait. Get your taste buds ready. Okay people, it's tasting time. Oh, I can't wait. Right. So traditionally you would have this, when you're having dim sum you don't have rice, because dim sum weirdly enough is a breakfast dish in Hong Kong, China. But for an evening meal you would have this with steamed rice. This is what we do. Okay, so let's see what my chopstick skills are like. Man, that's good. You can taste the ginger, the garlic, the hint of the chili coming in. If you want more kick, you have some chili actually with it. There is no chili on here, so it's not really that hot. And the black bean, of course, is just so delicious. And the meat is literally falling off the bone. What I would do is spoon some of the sauce onto the rice, and that would flavour the rice, and it's just so delicious that way. My wife, who is my camera person, is salivating. You would like some, would you? Let me find you a nice bit.
Try some.
This is how much I love my wife, people. If I was really horrible and wicked, I'd eat it myself. But then I wouldn't have a camera person anymore, would I?
Then it's trying to soften up, you know.
Do I have your seal of approval?
That'll do.
That is high praise from Mrs. Lau, trust me.
Nice, yeah.
So I hope you're going to try this recipe. I hope you really love it as much as we do. It is just amazing, and a proper authentic Chinese dish. Like I said, this is a real dish that real Chinese people eat, and it just gives you a proper flavour of proper Chinese cooking, and hopefully that'll inspire you to make other things. It can be eaten on its own with some rice, or you can have it as part of a banquet, however you want, or a starter even. But honestly, so simple. Apart from the actual marinating time, it probably took an hour to make, just over an hour, depending on the cooking time. So really quick, really easy, really tasty. What more could you want? So please, if you enjoy this recipe, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button and hit the bell so you get notified of all the videos that I'm going to release. I'm going to try to release twice a week, fingers crossed, all being well. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care.